So, Donald Trump just got the shock of his political life. And frankly, nobody inside his inner circle saw this coming with this level of ferocity. We are talking about a total, unmitigated meltdown happening right now in Washington, D.C. If you thought the indictments were the peak of the chaos, you were wrong. If you thought the mugshot was the end of the line, you were mistaken. What happened just minutes ago on the floor of Congress isn't just a political maneuver. It is a constitutional earthquake. Let's be real for a second. We are used to the noise. We are used to the tweets, the rallies, the threats, and the legal motions. But what just transpired is different. We have received confirmation that a bipartisan coalition, yes, you heard me right, bipartisan, has formally introduced a resolution demanding the immediate resignation of the former president from the current race and is moving to censure his entire political operation based on new explosive findings. Trump is reportedly enraged. Sources close to Mar-a-Lago describe a scene of absolute panic, shouting matches, and aides scrambling to find a legal foothold on a cliff that is rapidly crumbling beneath them. This isn't just a story, it's a catastrophe for the Trump campaign. They were prepared for the courts. They were prepared for the prosecutors. They were even prepared for the media attacks. But they were absolutely blindsided by a move from within the legislative branch that challenges his very fitness to hold office based on evidence that was, until this morning, buried in a redacted file. The air in D.C. is thick with tension. You can cut it with a knife. The narrative has shifted from "will he be convicted" to "will he survive the week politically?" This is the moment the GOP establishment has secretly feared and the Democrats have been waiting for, but nobody expected the trigger to be pulled this quickly. Buckle up, because the next 20 minutes are going to change everything you thought you knew about this election cycle. Let me fill you in on exactly how we got here, because without the context, this just looks like another day in the swamp. But trust me, this is anything but routine. To understand the gravity of this resignation demand, we have to look at the pressure cooker that has been building over the last 6 months. We have seen a slow, grinding attrition of Trump's legal defenses. We've seen judges lose patience. We've seen gag orders imposed and violated. But through all of that, the political wall held. The Senate and the House largely stayed in their partisan corners. The unspoken rule was that the voters would decide, not the Congress. That rule just evaporated. Why now? Why is this different from the 2 impeachments? Because those were largely viewed through the lens of partisan warfare. This current demand for resignation stems from a specific, tangible revelation regarding national security and the integrity of the electoral process that goes beyond mere rhetoric. We are talking about the release of committee findings that suggest a level of compromise that makes Watergate look like a parking violation. The stakes here are existential. We aren't just talking about a candidate losing a race. We are talking about the potential disqualification of a leading figure in American politics through a mechanism that hasn't been fully utilized since the Civil War era. This isn't just another legal motion or a frivolous lawsuit filed by an obscure district attorney. This is the legislative branch asserting its power in a way that signals a complete breakdown of the wait-and-see approach. For months, the strategy from the GOP leadership was to ride the tiger, to support Trump publicly while privately hoping the legal system would take him out. But something snapped. The evidence that dropped regarding his recent communications, evidence we will get into shortly, was the straw that broke the camel's back. The context here is a party in crisis. Behind closed doors, the whispers have turned into shouts. The donors are looking at the polling data, they are looking at the legal bills, and now they are looking at a Congress that is openly declaring war on their frontrunner. Trump knows this. That is why he is enraged. He understands leverage better than anyone, and he knows that when Congress moves this aggressively, it gives permission to everyone else, the hesitant donors, the wavering endorsements, the skeptical independents, to jump ship. We are witnessing the collision of a populist movement with the hard, cold machinery of constitutional governance. It is a game of chicken where both cars are traveling at 100 miles an hour. If Congress backs down, they look weak and ineffective. If Trump defies them, which he will, it sets up a showdown that could tear the country apart. But here is the thing. The people pushing this resolution know that. They calculated the risk, and they decided to pull the trigger anyway. That tells you everything you need to know about how damning the new information is. They wouldn't risk this level of chaos unless they had something concrete. They wouldn't demand resignation unless they believed they could actually force his hand, or at least destroy his viability in the process. Here's where the rubber meets the road. We can talk about political maneuvering all day, but unless there is hard evidence, it's just smoke. The reason DC is in chaos right now, and the reason Trump is reportedly throwing a fit behind closed doors, is because of the specific text contained in the congressional resolution and the accompanying exhibit, which we are calling the Thursday Memo. This document isn't speculative. It isn't an op-ed. It is a compilation of sworn testimony and, more importantly, digital correspondence that allegedly links the Trump campaign's recent strategy directly to entities that are explicitly hostile to U.S. interests. The resolution demanding his resignation cites irrefutable proof of compromised decision-making. Let's break down exactly what that legal jargon actually means because it is terrifying. The resolution references a specific timeline of events from last month. It details a series of meetings that were previously denied by the campaign, where quid pro quo arrangements were allegedly discussed regarding future foreign policy decisions in exchange for immediate electoral assistance. We aren't talking about Facebook ads here. We are talking about shifts in NATO alignment, shifts in trade tariffs, and shifts in classified intelligence sharing. The document quotes a senior aide stating on the record that the boss knows the price and is willing to pay it. When you read the fine print of this demand, it becomes clear why the word resignation is being used. They aren't asking him to just step aside. They are building a case that he is actively ineligible to hold the office due to conflicting interests that pose a clear and present danger to national security. The resolution explicitly cites the 14th Amendment, but it goes further, weaving in statutes regarding the Espionage Act that haven't even been touched by the special counsel yet. Trust me, this is where the legal defense team hits a brick wall. You can spin a speech. You can spin a tweet. You can even spin a phone call if the audio is grainy enough. You cannot spin a paper trail of financial entanglements that directly contradict the oath of office. The Thursday Memo reportedly contains routing numbers, dates, and direct quotes from the candidate himself, authorizing back-channel communications that bypass the State Department entirely. This is the meat of the script. This is why the establishment is panicking. If this goes to a public hearing, and the resolution demands that it does within 72 hours, we are going to see evidence that makes the previous hearings look like daytime TV. The resolution demands that Trump resign immediately to preserve the dignity of the institution and prevent a constitutional crisis. It is an ultimatum. And let's look at the signatories. This isn't just the radical left, as Trump likes to call them. There are signatures on this document from members who represent districts Trump won by double digits. That is the tell. That is the signal that the dam has broken. These representatives have seen the classified annex. They have seen the raw intelligence, and they have decided that the political cost of supporting him is now higher than the political cost of attacking him. The specific clause that has everyone sweating is Section 4, Paragraph B. It calls for the immediate freezing of campaign assets tied to these specific allegations. Imagine that. In the middle of an election, Congress is moving to choke off the money supply based on the premise that the money itself is tainted. That is a nuclear option. That is the system fighting back with everything it has. So when we say DC in chaos, we don't mean people are just shouting on cable news. We mean that lawyers are currently drafting injunctions, shredders are likely running hot, and the very foundation of the Trump 2024 argument, that he is the victim of a witch hunt, is being challenged by cold, hard documentary evidence that he was selling out the store. The rubber has met the road, and the friction is causing a fire that threatens to burn the whole house down. Let's go inside the room. Let's talk about the reaction, because the reaction tells you just as much as the action itself. Sources inside the Trump camp describe the atmosphere as apocalyptic. We are hearing reports of top advisors screaming at legal counsel, demanding to know who leaked the documents referenced in the resolution. There is a palpable sense of betrayal. The circle of trust, which was already small, has now shrunk to a microscopic dot. One insider, speaking on condition of anonymity, told reporters, "We didn't think they had the guts to do this. We thought we had the votes to block it." This changes the math on everything. That is the sound of panic. That is the sound of a strategy that just hit an iceberg. You have to understand, the Trump strategy relies on offense. It relies on controlling the news cycle. But you cannot control a news cycle when Congress is dropping bombshells that carry the weight of federal evidence. Legal experts are weighing in, and they are stunned. We are seeing constitutional scholars from both sides of the aisle, conservative strict constructionists and liberal living constitutionalists, agreeing that this resolution is unprecedented. One prominent legal analyst noted, "This is not an impeachment. This is a censure with teeth. It is a legislative declaration of no confidence that carries massive weight with the judiciary. If Trump ignores this, which he will, it sets up a conflict between the branches that the Supreme Court will have to resolve, and the court may not save him this time." The panic isn't just in Trump's camp. It is spreading through the RNC. Phones are ringing off the hook at headquarters. State chairmen are calling in, asking what the talking points are, and the answer they are getting is dead silence. Why? Because there are no talking points for this. How do you defend against a bipartisan resolution demanding resignation based on national security risks? You can't just yell fake news when the signatures on the bottom of the page belong to your own party members. We are also hearing that potential VP picks are suddenly going dark. People who were jockeying for a spot on the ticket yesterday are suddenly unavailable for comment today. They see the writing on the wall. They see the smoke rising from the Capitol, and they are checking the wind direction before they step outside. This is the rat and sinking ship phenomenon in real time. Let's be real for a second about the psychology of the man himself. Trump feeds on conflict, yes, but he despises humiliation. And this demand for resignation is the ultimate humiliation. It is the political establishment looking him in the eye and saying, "You are unfit, and we have the receipts to prove it." Sources say he is currently working the phones, threatening primary challenges against anyone who supports the resolution. But the threats sound hollow when the evidence is this damaging. The legal team is in a total bind. They are fighting a multi-front war. They have the criminal cases in New York, Georgia, Florida, and DC. And now, they have a legislative assault that doesn't require a jury. It only requires public opinion and political will. The experts know that if this resolution gains traction, if the hearings are televised, the court of public opinion will deliver a verdict long before any jury does. And the media, they are in a frenzy. But amidst the chaos, there is a serious undertone. The veteran reporters, the ones who have covered DC for 30 years, aren't laughing. They aren't making jokes. They look rattled. Because they know that when the system turns on a figure this powerful, the backlash is unpredictable. We are in uncharted waters. The panic is real because the outcome is completely unknown. We have never had a frontrunner facing a congressional demand for resignation in the middle of a campaign. There is no playbook for this. Now, let's look at the numbers, because feelings don't win elections. Votes do. And this is where the political nightmare becomes a reality. This isn't just about legal maneuvering, it's about electoral annihilation. If you look at the polling data coming out of the crucial swing states, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, the margins are razor thin. Trump has been surviving because he has held onto his base and chipped away at disenchanted independents. But this destroys the independent strategy. Independents and suburban voters hate chaos. They hate instability. They might not love the current administration, but they are terrified of a constitutional crisis. When Congress demands a resignation based on national security, the suburban mom in Philadelphia and the blue-collar worker in Detroit take notice. They might overlook a mean tweet. They might overlook a civil liability verdict. But they will not overlook a bipartisan declaration that the candidate is a danger to the republic. The nightmare scenario for the GOP is a cratering of support in the suburbs that drags down the entire ticket. We are talking about down-ballot races, Senate seats, House seats, governorships, all being wiped out because the top of the ticket is radioactive. Strategists are looking at these maps and they are seeing red, but not the kind of red they want. They are seeing a red alert. Let's talk about the soft Trump voter. This is the voter who likes his policies but hates the drama. This resignation demand is pure, uncut drama. It is the maximum dose of chaos. These voters are the ones who will stay home. They won't vote for the Democrat, but they won't stand in line for 3 hours to vote for a man who is being effectively disowned by Congress. And if they stay home, the election is over. It's a math problem, and the solution is a landslide loss. Furthermore, this hands the Democrats the ultimate weapon. They don't even have to campaign on policy anymore. All they have to do is point to the resolution. They can just run ads reading the text of the demand for resignation. Congress says he is unfit. Why would you vote for him? It is a simple, brutal, effective message. It neutralizes every attack regarding the economy or the border because it trumps everything, no pun intended, with the card of national stability. And what about the primary implications? If Trump refuses to resign, which he will, and the party is split, you have a civil war within the GOP 3 months before the convention. You have a brokered convention scenario becoming a real possibility. You have delegates who are bound by law to vote for him, but who are morally compelled by this resolution to abandon him. It is a recipe for a floor fight that will be televised to the world. A party divided cannot stand. And right now, the GOP is being sliced in half by this resolution. Think about the donors again. The big money, the dark money. They invest in winners. They do not invest in martyrs. They are looking at this situation and realizing that every dollar they spend on Trump is a dollar spent on legal fees and crisis management, not on winning voters. We are likely to see a massive freeze in funding. And without money, the ground game collapses. Without a ground game, you lose the margins. This is the nightmare. It is the death spiral. Bad news leads to bad polling, which leads to lost funding, which leads to worse news. Trump has defied gravity for 8 years. He has survived things that would have killed any other politician 10 times over. But gravity always wins in the end. And this resolution, this demand for resignation, feels like the moment gravity finally takes hold. The political consequences are not just severe, they are terminal. The brand is being marked unsafe for consumption by the very factory that built it. If he gets away with this, the system is broken. That is the bottom line. We have spent the last few years asking if the institutions can hold. We have asked if the guardrails are strong enough. Well, this is the crash test. This is the moment where the car hits the wall at full speed. Let's step back and look at the big picture. This isn't just about Donald Trump. It's about the concept of accountability in a representative democracy. If a bipartisan coalition of Congress, armed with evidence, testimony, and constitutional authority, cannot force a compromised candidate to step aside, then we have effectively entered a post-constitutional era. We are no longer a nation of laws, we are a nation of sheer power dynamics. The demand for resignation is a desperate attempt by the system to correct itself. It is the immune system of the body politic trying to fight off an infection. But if the patient, the American voter, rejects the cure, or if the infection is too strong, then the prognosis is grim. We are watching a stress test of the American experiment in real time. The question you have to ask yourself is this: what happens next week? What happens when Trump defies this order? What happens when he rallies his supporters to view Congress not as the voice of the people, but as the enemy of the people? We are looking at a delegitimization of the legislative branch. If half the country believes Congress is corrupt and the other half believes the president is a criminal, how do you govern? You don't. You just fight. This is the precipice. We are standing on the edge, looking down into the abyss of total institutional failure. The system on trial isn't a metaphor. It is the literal reality of our lives right now. The judges, the senators, the representatives, they are all actors in a tragedy that hasn't finished writing its final act. So, keep an eye on this. Watch who steps up to the microphone in the next 24 hours. Watch who stays silent. Watch the money. Because the next few days will decide not just who wins the White House, but whether the White House is even worth winning anymore. The resignation demand is on the table. The chaos is in the streets. And the clock is ticking. This isn't just a story. It's a catastrophe. And we are all living through it together.